Godzilla versus Kong, this movie has had a really, really long run getting to where it's at. Like a lot of movies that are coming out over the last year or two because of coronavirus, they've been delayed like multiple times. As far as I can tell, this is definitely one of them because I swear I've been hearing about hype for this movie for the last 3 years. Now, my wife and I, we both got the opportunity to actually watch this in theaters because we have one near us that is actually showing it. And I'm really glad that we did because this has been a long time coming. It would have been kind of a bummer to see it on HBO Max, though it's not bad seeing it there. So the path leading up to this movie has been pretty long, as you guys know. It started back in 2014's Godzilla when that came out. And I still, to this day, I heed that as a masterpiece. It's not very well known as such, and I think it's incredibly underrated. The way that the movie sets itself up, the anticipation, the build-up, and the payoff is so well done. The cinematography is beautiful. The CGI is fantastic. It was followed by the sequel, which was King of Monsters. It was a good movie. It was decent. It definitely went totally hard on for the whole just monster action thing. It definitely didn't have any build-up or anything, and that's fine because that's what the first one was doing. Of course, Skull Island came out too, and that's what's built up to this as well. And I thought Skull Island was a great movie in general. The culmination of those 3 movies leading up to this one is where we are now, which is basically Godzilla wiping out all of his enemies and Kong fighting against the odds to finally make it here against each other, where the 2 ultimate kings of all the Titans face each other in basically a dream battle that the fans have been wanting forever. It's kind of like the epicenter is the climax of this, this monsterverse that's been built since 2014. And this movie does not disappoint. I loved this movie. It was so fun to watch. If you have a theater within an hour, within 2 hours of you, and you're determined to watch it, if this is a movie you're looking forward to see, it is worth it to go see it in theater if at all possible. This movie was fantastic for a lot of reasons. It wasn't perfect. It did have its issues, but I walked into it really expecting the same thing we've gotten with King of the Monsters and Skull Island, where you just bring 2 characters together, throw in a bunch of really needless human side plots, and then, have them go fist to fist. And then when early reviews came out from it, everyone said that they did a good job of just making you go straight to the action, just a bunch of dumb, brainless action. And I even disagree with that. I'm excited to say that the movie didn't just deliver on action. It delivered on most fronts, even a surprisingly emotional one, where I would have never seen that coming for a Titan movie, for a kaiju movie. They introduce some new human characters. One of them is this little girl. She's this deaf girl, and she's not even listed under the cast of the movie, which is such a bummer because my wife and I both agree she was the star of the show. She's one of the first human characters introduced into these movies since 2014 that I've cared at all about. She was wonderful in her role. Her acting was perfect. She did her role so well. And the way they wrote the character was beautiful too, creating kind of a connection between Kong and her. Like, that's a big deal with humanity. In general, they introduce a new set of characters with this little girl, including a mother figure who's played here by Rebecca Hall. And I didn't think I'd like her, but she did wonderful as well. And then there was this third character, which was Alexander Skarsgård, and I really wasn't sure what to think about him, but he turned out to also be a decent character. Now, there are issues with the human parts of the story. Matter of fact, it's arguable that's the only issues. But it's not that they existed. It's not, oh, why do you spend so much time on it? It's the fact that they dragged in so many characters. It's like they felt obligated to pull in the characters from all the past monster movies, and it just isn't necessary to me. They brought back Millie Bobby Brown. In my opinion, completely unnecessary. I don't like Millie Bobby Brown. I think she's a good actor, and I'm sure she's a super nice person. But every time she's dragged into a movie, they really deck her out to be this super fancy, cutesy teenage girl with all the makeup and short shorts. And you don't dress like that when it's the end of the world. When there's I don't know what it is. I loved her performance in Stranger Things because they made her look like and act like what she is, a young girl, right? That's what she is. I never like it when, Disney Channel or Nickelodeon or big budget movies try and take these really young kids, guys or girls, and try and make them look grown up. It's more prone to happen with girls because you slap a bunch of makeup on them and give them really short shorts and say, oh, look, they're an adult now. No, they're not. Her whole side quest, which included Julian Dennison, who, played or starred in Hunt for the Wilder People, which was a fun movie. And then another character, which was Brian Tyree Henry. I'm reading it here because I don't know these names. Their side quest was okay. But this is where things got unnecessary. They didn't need to be there. They did have a purpose in the end, but they could have rewritten that pretty easily. They had one small purpose. You know, you had the bad guys. The main baddie, I think, is played by Elza. I don't know. She played Maya as this main bad girl, and she's got all the cool eyeliner. And my wife and I hated her. She was awful. Not hate like, oh, you're supposed to, because she's a bad guy, and she was, but hate as in just like, you look like every other TikTok girl, and her character arc was absolutely unnecessary. If you took her entirely out of it, the movie would have lost nothing. No plot, no development, no brains, nothing. That's just something I want to mention. Let's talk about what you came to see this movie for. The action. The action just slaps so hard. It is beautiful. And I don't mean like King of the Monsters style where, you know, they bite each other and kind of tussle around in the sky as big titans. It's on a new level. I mean, it is fist to fist, face to face for nonstop the second half of the movie, and they just go all in. It is beautiful. The CGI is wonderful. It's all in broad daylight for the most part, so they hide absolutely nothing. That was somewhat of a complaint from the first two Godzilla movies, is the poor lighting that made it hard to see stuff. Well, forget about it here. You can't complain about it. You'll have to find something else because, my goodness, the lighting, the scenery, the CGI, there wasn't a single moment in this movie where I'm like, that looked a little off or a little sketchy. The whole thing, through and through, shot for shot, was gorgeous. The colors in the final battle were beautiful. It reminds me of when Stranger Things Season 3 came out and everyone raved about how beautiful all the colors were in the final scene. And, you know, it was all right to me. This trumped it on every level. Just beautifully profound. Like, the reason I'm just dwelling on these fights so much is it's such a common thing for monster movies or Titan movies or really any action movie to start a fight between two characters. They'll throw a few punches. It'll last anywhere between 20 seconds to a minute where they'll get it going. And then when things start getting intense, they'll cut away to a side plot of humans doing something. And then after 3 or 4 minutes, transition back to them fighting. It's not a bad technique. It's a way of saving budget. And they had zero regard for that here. When they first confront each other in Hong Kong and they go at it for the first time, it doesn't cut away for 5 straight minutes. They go fist to fist, punch to punch. Godzilla's using his atomic breath. Kong's using his freaking axe. Yeah, I had this big, fat, freaking childish smile on my face for the entire last half of the movie. I got chills down my spine. And I think this is worth mentioning on a different level than people have before, because a lot of people are saying, oh, finally, they've given us what we wanted, just a bunch of good, dumb action. And I disagree with that. To me, big, dumb action is more represented in King of the Monsters, where they kind of tussle around and then you show a bunch of dumb humans you don't care about and then tussle and humans and tussle. This movie did something different. The action scenes in this movie were actually choreographed. They were very beautifully laid out. There was a team on this who knew what they were doing. The director did a wonderful job of making sure that every single move from punch to slap to kick was perfectly timed and just felt so well distributed. And they did such a beautiful job of it highlighting Kong's strengths versus Godzilla's strengths. The director cares about these characters, you know? I would die to see a director like this take over a project like Transformers. I think anyone would love to see this kind of director direct what they love, because he seems to love what he does and have a respect for the characters and actually try and follow something on behalf of that. And they actually introduce humans who you care about. And what's important to me in showing how good of a director Adam was in this movie was that the characters I hated in this movie for the most part were characters they've introduced in past monster movies. The characters I actually cared about were the ones that he introduced and he casted and put into their roles for this movie specifically, which tells me that he's doing what he can, but I would venture to guess and assume that companies like Warner Brothers made him put, you know, actors like Millie Bobby Brown in there because they were in past movies. So everything he had control of, I would assume, he did a masterful job on. I haven't seen a Titan smashdown like this ever. Like, literally ever. Never seen it before. And that's coming off of a guy who's watched all the Pacific Rim movies, all the Transformers movies, all the previous monsterverse movies, and this whoops them. they come together for a reason. Kong fights Godzilla for a reason. Godzilla is killing people for a reason. The main characters being there has a reason. It's all thought out, and it's not the smartest movie in the world, but it's also not just dumb fun and fists thrown around. I think that's really disrespectful to the directors and how much effort you can tell they put into this. And I just have so much love and respect for the team who worked on this and just delivered. I personally hope that this is the last of the MonsterVerse. I think this is a wonderful way to end it. If you've seen it, you know that it really does seem to conclude things on a solid note, and there's not a whole lot of other places to go considering that they've introduced just about every major titan, and I think this is a wonderful way to end this saga. At the end of the day, slapping this into a rating between 1 and 10, I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10. It was so much fun to watch. There were problems, there were issues, mostly involved with the humans that I just did not like or enjoy. But with that being said, it was so well counterbalanced with the humans they did introduce that I did enjoy, with just straight up slap them up, fist to fist action that was so well done. I'm going to be going back to watch the movie again very soon, and I cannot wait for it. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Later, guys.